So we will continue with today's chapter, that is large intestine. So the main activities or the functions which the large intestine does is receive food and fluids from small intestine, and it absorbs the fluids from the stool which has come into it. Means whatever chyme which came out of stomach, it went through the small intestine. Now it is coming into the last phase in the large intestine. The chyme is kind of fluidy in its texture. Now it is trying to, the large intestine dries up the fluids by absorbing it and tries to make the stool dry. Okay, that is why the energy of large intestine is dryness, because it is trying to dry the stool. Okay. And similarly, the energy of lungs is also dryness, because it is trying to dry the things from the upper thoracic. Means when you do the when you exhale, it is not just the air which is coming out. Along with it, there is small tiny uh, droplets of water is coming out. Say whenever you want to try to clean the specs, you do this, and when you see, it is not, you see the water vapors. So it means, say that even the lungs is trying to dry the system. Okay, it is trying to put out the liquid. So that is why the energy of both lungs and large intestine is dryness. Okay, we had discussed this earlier, but I'm for the new ones, I'm trying to repeat it. Now whatever stool which has absorbed and dried it, now it has to excrete it. Okay, even that work is done by large intestine, but there is an involvement of lungs over here. Whatever the energy, the push which is supposed to the large intestine is supposed to get to pass the stools, that push or that energy or key is coming from lungs. Okay, so it gets the key from lungs to excrete the stool. So these are the three main activities that the large intestine is doing as per TCM. Okay, so if you observe here, because there is a figure, I am trying to explain this. So the large intestine starts from here. Okay, okay, and there is at the entry of the large intestine, there is appendix, a small finger like extrusion. Okay, and in Ayurvedic acupressure, we use this for lot of for infection, but because I am discussing TCM, I will not get into the details of that. So the large intestine is like this. It is rising and traversing and descending, and from here the exit hole is there. So in this way, this is ascending colon. It is also called colon. Large intestine is also called as colon. So this is the rising, okay, or the ascending colon, where the stool moves up, and then it is transverse colon. This part is transverse colon, and this is descending. So this is called descending colon. This part is called the sigmoid colon, and the next one is rectum, and the last exit hole is called anus. So the food which comes from small intestine moves in this way, and in this entire journey, the food, the nutrients, the remaining nutrients and the fluids are absorbed, and by the time it comes over here, so it comes like this and comes and gets collected in the sigmoid colon. The stool is collected in the sigmoid colon, and whenever in the morning there is an urge to excrete, the stool comes out of from here to here. Okay, so this is the whole process. While the stool is moving in this direction, lot of things happen. In the sense, the stool gets its shape and texture, the things gets absorbed. So all those things happens in this whole journey. So see, whenever somebody sits for excretion, how much distance should the stool pass? It is not starting from here, it is only from here. Okay, the stool is already sitting here, now it has to come out. How much time should it take? Someone's digestive system, if it is good, it should take less than 1 minute to excrete the entire stool. Less than, not even 1 minute. Okay, so with this you can understand how much time you are, if someone is spending in excreting. If it is like some people spend like half an hour, 45 minutes, etc. So that says the health of the large intestine in general, in particular, and in general the entire digestive tract, GIT. Okay, so the distance to be traveled is very less from here to here. So it should take less than 1 minute to empty the bowel. Okay, so these are the three main functions of the large intestine. So we will try to go into the details of each one of them. So the first one is, it receives food and fluid from small intestine. So after getting the food, what does it do? See, this is a figure where it tells what gets absorbed in which part of the GIT, intestinal tract. Okay, so this is the esophagus. Like above here, you can consider above this there is mouth. The food comes through esophagus, and first part in the stomach, water, ethyl alcohol, copper, iodine, so all these things gets absorbed. Next comes the small intestine. Small intestine is comprised of three parts: duodenum, jejunum, ileum. Okay, so it is called small intestine because its diameter is less compared to large intestine. So that is why it is called small intestine. Okay, but lengthwise it is much bigger than large intestine. Because the diameter is less of the tube, it is called small intestine, and the diameter of the large intestine is bigger or large. That is why it is called large intestine. So if you see, majority of the absorption happens in this three parts, three sections. So in duodenum you see calcium, 2 vitamin A, D, E, K, and then you see in jejunum you see have lipids, amino acids, monosaccharides, then thiamine, etc., iron, zinc, molybdenum, manganese, etc. And in ileum you see vitamin C, magnesium, vitamin K, all those. And so these many things, biles and salt, the entire stuff from here till here and here till here gets absorbed in small intestine. That is the major part where all the nutrients gets absorbed. After all the absorption, then it comes to small intestine, sorry, large intestine. So in large intestine, whatever is remaining or pending, that gets absorbed. So the water gets absorbed, as I told, because it is drying, and sodium, chloride, potassium, vitamin K, biotin, all those things gets absorbed, and short chain fatty acids. So there is length also is given. Duodenum is about 1 foot, jejunum is about 8 foot, and ileum is about 12 foot. So 12 plus 8 is 20, 20 plus 1, 21. So it is about 21 feet. Okay, and large intestine is about 5 feet. So this is small intestine is about 4 times longer than large intestine. Okay, now when the food comes, it is not only getting absorbed, other things also happening in large intestine. Okay, the stool is getting further processed. okay, or fermented. So there is bacteria in large intestine. It is there in small intestine also, but because the discussion is in large intestine, I am talking specific to large intestine. So the bacteria which is in the large intestine also processes the stool. Okay. So like it is, the body is so well designed that it is trying to absorb as much as it can, maximum. So nothing is left to waste. Okay. So in the final journey, the bacteria processes it, and then after processing whatever nutrients still we get, that also large intestine tries to absorb it. Okay. So this is in terms of large absorption of nutrients. Okay. So we will take a look at into this little bit more detail. See, if you see this, this is large intestine and it has millions and millions of bacteria. Okay. So the whole tract is covered with bacteria, and if you go zoom it into the large intestine, this is how it would look. There is plenty of bacteria in the large intestine near the villi, what we discussed last time. These are all the finger like structure which is inside the large intestine and small intestine. It increases the surface area for the absorption. Okay. So you see there is a lot of bacteria. What is the role of this bacteria is what we will try to understand. Okay. So I have taken an example of earthworms in this figure. See, there is earth, and below the earth there is lot of earthworms. So what is the food for the earthworm? It eats the earth, and it processes that earth and excretes the earth once again. Okay. So it eats the earth, processes it, whatever it is needed for its own survival, it will take out of it, and rest it will excrete. Whatever is the excretion of the earthworm is a very pure form of earth. Okay. This earth, which is the excretion from the earthworm, is far more easier for the plants to absorb than the direct earth. Okay. So that is why the excrete of the earthworm is called compost, vermicompost. Okay. So it is a fertilizer. People use it as fertilizer because it breaks up lot of things which is in the earth and makes it available for the plants to absorb. Okay, that is why it is called as the friend of the farmer. Okay, so the more the earthworm in the earth, the more the fertile the soil is. Now the same thing applies to our gut also. Now this small bacteria does the work of the earthworm. So whatever is the food, it eats and processes it and lets it out. Whatever is the excrete of these bacteria will be helpful to our body to absorb more nutrition. Okay. So whatever is unprocessed, that food is consumed by bacteria, and then it further processes it and makes more nutrients available for our body to absorb, like say vitamin B12, etc. There is vitamin B12 in what we eat, but also it is produced by these bacteria, and the process is as I described in the earthworm case. I hope this is clear. This is also called micro gut biome, flora of the gut. It has many names given to it. Okay. It is basically a ecosystem of all the millions and millions of bacteria in the gut. Okay. So we discussed it absorbs the fluids, It dries the stools, hence the energy of the LI is dryness. And unabsorbed water in the SI, etc., gets absorbed. LI also provides shape to the stool. Okay, so when we how do we decide the health of a person? Okay, a lot can be judged based on the stool that they pass. Okay, I heard a story of a very good doctor who is an alternate medicine doctor, quite famous. Um, I'm not getting into the details of it, but that doctor was in a different profession, but later on got into the alternate health area. Okay, and to learn the art of diagnosis, what the doctor used to do, like in the very initial phases, that doctor is a very famous doctor, but in the initial days there was a lot of financial crunch also to that doctor. So in the rural areas, the doctor used to go, and somebody is drawing the on a, please so whoever is drawing, please don't do this, it disturbs the class. Okay. um, okay, I was telling about the doctor. So what the doctor used to do is, okay, because in the rural area the doctor used to go to the fields or in the roads where a lot of children used to defecate. Okay, so he used to observe all what the children have defecated. It used to be in the, in a line the people used to sit. So by observing the defecated matter, the stool, the doctor used to analyze it. Okay, by observing what is the shape, what is the color, and based on that, he used to try to kind of make an analysis of how good the digestive system of that child is. Okay, so why I am saying this story is because stool gives lot of information of how our GIT is, how good our GIT is. Okay, so whenever we get a chance, we will try to take a class on stool analysis whenever there is a chance. Okay, so it gives a shape to the stool. Okay. This is also one of the important aspect of the uh, large intestine. Okay, in the last class we had told that TCM says that small intestine is the second brain. Okay. Is there any kind of validation or some level of sense to it, or is it total kind of a nonsensical statement? Okay, so like when I was trying to think of this, there is a concept in Western medicine also. I think, I am not very sure on this, but there is a concept called gut brain axis. Okay. So it tells that the ability of the brain to influence the intestinal microbiota, and the inverse of that, that is the ability of the microbiota to influence the brain and the behavior. So it is a two-way communication where the brain communicates with the gut and the gut communicates with the brain. Gut is nothing but GIT. Okay, so there is concepts uh, like I have written here, needs further study for myself to. So there is a connection between the brain and the gut, and the gut and the brain. So in that way, whatever the TCM people have told, it is, no, it is not a nonsense. There is some sense to it, but how and what, like the details, we will have to further understand. Okay, so this was about the large intestine. So any questions until here? Okay, just give me one moment. Sorry about that. Okay, so this completes the large intestine part. So any questions until here? Prakash R has unmuted.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, as per TCM, they say that large intestine stores more energy, Chi-wise.
Okay.
How come that possible?
Large intestine stores more Qi than which one?
When compared to other organs, stomach and large intestine stores more Chi.
Stomach and large intestine has more Qi than small intestine.
Other
Liver,
other
etc.
organs.
Okay. See, this is something new to me. I do not know. I do not know in which context it has been told. Okay. So if I come across anything, I will share. See, if it was just how can see, I will take one class on the key and the tubular structure. Okay, so in future, then probably it will make more sense what I tell you. Okay, so we will discuss this little further, but I'll give you a very brief. See, when the food is traveling, okay, it stays for 1 hour in stomach.
Okay.
And another 3 to 4 hours in small intestine. Okay. And then the largest amount of time that the food stays is in large intestine.
Yeah, that's right.
And that food is also key by itself, right? So the large intestine keeps the food for a very long time, and quite a large amount of the food, like 3 meals that we have eaten, all the 3 meals will be sitting in large intestine, right, by the time in the morning. So all of that put together, we can say that large intestine has more energy. But how much more compared to which organ, no, I am not very sure, but this could be the reason why they say that large intestine has more energy compared to stomach and small intestine.
Yes.
Makes sense, sir?
Maybe, sir. Yeah. Little sense, yes.
Okay.
There is some reason. Yeah. Thank you.
Krishnamurthy, sir.
Yes, madam.
Is the large intestine being a pair of lungs, does it have to do because it's a paired organ of the nutritive key? Is it one of the reasons that it's having more energy compared to other organs? Could it be? I mean, I didn't know.
I would see, this is something new concept. I would not correlate it with lungs at this point of time. I can only think of the food which is stored. Okay, the nutrient deficient food which gets stored in the large intestine. That is what I can think of as of now. Paired organ, I'm not able to make a connect.
Sir,
Yes.
I'm Lakshmi here. I have a small doubt. Nutritive key is spleen, right? It is not lungs.
No.
Spleen is food key, no, Lakshmi?
Okay.
The first energy receptor is our lungs.
Yeah. Okay.
Defensive key is for lungs, right?
I'm trying to get to that. Just give me a moment.
Yes. Defensive key is lungs. The nutritive key is on spleen mainly.
Spleen. Nutritive key is spleen. Defensive key is lungs.
Yes, you're right. I don't know about TCM, but the connection with the small intestine being the second, we have the craniosacral outflow. If you look at the sympathetic and the parasympathetic innervations of the gut, you will see it is from the thoracic lumbar outflow. And that is mostly governed by both sympathetic and parasympathetic. That is what they say by the brain connection. And of course, hypothalamus has a very strong influence on it. It's a well-known scientific fact.
Madam, could you please repeat that part?
About what? See, these are all organs which, we're talking about the intestines and the other organs in the body, which are actually autonomic under the autonomic nervous system. They are not governed by voluntary
Yes,
will at all.
involuntary.
So it is the actual, yes, it is actually through the autonomic nervous system, the sympathetic as well as parasympathetic. So if you see the thoracic as well, the celiac, if you see the gut, you're talking about the stomach, the large intestine, are all governed by the thoracic lumbar outflow, which is again finally, both the sympathetic through that flow and parasympathetic through the craniosacral outflow. So both of them have their own activities on these organs, quite independent of the volitional or voluntary will of the brain. But what happens is they are under very strong influence of the hypothalamus, thalamus and the hypothalamus, which are again centers where they process a lot of emotion and all the things which affect your gut. And that is the reason why when you have an irritable bowel, it's not the large intestine which is at fault, it is the small intestine, because the peristalsis is again governed through the autonomic nervous system. This is the reason why we have irritable bowel. So if your mind is not all right, your digestion is not okay. You can even absorption is also interfered with.
Yes, exactly.
So this is what the gut-brain axis is well known, but I don't know about what they meant in Chinese acupressure, because they have probably recognized the connection, but I mean that the mind does influence the small intestine and actually ultimately the large intestine. But the large intestine's contribution to the body is absolutely amazing. Like you talked about the microbiome, it has 96 or to 98% of our entire genetic material in the body. And then you see the somatic cells have genetic material. Compared to that, we have 98% in the form of external genetic material in microbiome. And it is this microbiome which ultimately through its production, it starts with so many chemicals are produced, which again go back to the gut-brain axis. So microbiome has its own function. Then you have the autonomic nervous system governing the function of the gut and the, particularly large and small gut. So both of them are, totally synced to the brain, particularly they have thalamus, hypothalamus, stress, constant stress, all the other hormones, all those things, again, through that axis, hypothalamo-hypophyseal axis, you will have effect upon the gut. That includes both small intestine and large intestine. So as like you said, there is a strong correlation or rather association between small intestine and large intestine, but they have their own spheres of influence as well as own areas of activity under the higher influence. So probably that's the reason why it's called the gut-brain axis, or you can call it the, what did you say to second brain?
Second brain. Now, I did not say, the TCM says. Yeah. Thank you, madam.
Okay.
So, madam, Revati, madam, you had that question. Now, please repeat it so that I have the chart and I can explain it from here.
No, actually, the external thing influences the energy is hitting on the lungs first. That's the way I get it. The food after going to stomach goes to spleen, but then the lung is the person who is first receiving all the energy. And because the LI is a paired organ of lungs, I thought that is why it is getting little more energy. I didn't know the concept of LI having more energy. It's the first time I'm hearing that.
Even I did not know, but trying to correlate things, that could be one of the reasons. But lungs getting the first energy, and then see, there is some weightage to what you see. See, the oxygen is first received by lungs, right? So, and that is the root of all the energy in the body. So, and because it is paired with large intestine, then there could be some correlation, which I do not know at this point of time. Okay. There could be a correlation. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
So, and anybody had any questions on this? Any other questions? So we just have 5 minutes for this session to end. Once it ends, we will.
Krishna, 1 minute.
Yes, madam.
Dr. Sushila again. Please remember, the the fire is a controller of the lungs as well as the large intestine, right? So that also is probably relates to the SI and the LI being very closely linked. One thing. Second thing is that you talked about the what is the mode of nutrition? Nutrition from food key is by the spleen mainly.
Yes.
But when you talk about the nutrition from the air, pure air, that is the gathering key which is there.
Yes.
That is the gathering key, that is it is there and it is sent. So I think key is interchangeable, whether it comes from food or from the lungs, wherever it comes, they're interchangeable based upon what their specific role is. Like lungs sends it downwards. If you look at it, kidney also has its own key, and it also goes downwards as well as upwards. So each one has its own function. So I think this key is interchangeable between various organs.
Yes, yes,
It's
yes.
particularly spared organs. That's what how I look at it.
Definitely, madam. So the key can become from visible to invisible and invisible to visible. So it is a very fabulous phenomenon to understand those transitions between two things. Okay. So any other question?
One more thought. In the conference papers, I don't remember who had mentioned it, but somebody had said whenever there is a problem with the skin, we first look at the yang organ related to lungs, which is the LI. And generally, gathering key we associate with running under the skin, right? So probably gathering key is
it is defensive
with
key.
LI.
Defensive key is under the skin.
Oh, okay. So that's why it is associated with LI.
Okay. Whenever there is, I'm trying to recollect the question. Whenever there is a problem with skin, we treat.
We try to look at the yang part, yang organ, which is the LI.
Which is the LI. Okay. See, generally, when there is a problem with the skin, depending on the problem of the skin, see, the first thing we look into is the lungs, because there is a direct control. The lungs controls the skin.
Yes.
But lungs and the large intestine controls the skin. To be correct, the correct way to say is not only lungs, lungs and large intestine put together controls the skin. So now if there could be whenever there is excess or deficient in lungs, correspondingly the deficient and excess in large intestine will also get manifested. So there may be some weightage to that statement, but I am not very sure about that part.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. So any further question? So we have 2 minutes left.
Sir, are we rejoining once we get cut?
Yes, we will rejoin. Because there is time, I am trying to utilize it.
Good.
Any question coming up, creeping up? Anything? Okay, there was one question on K1. No? When there is, can we use kidney yang deficiency when the urine is not getting passed? So it is, I had mentioned in the this thing, whenever something stops in the body, either the blood or the key or urine or stool, it creates an excess condition. So if somebody is not able to pass urine, it means that they are currently in excess condition. So we will have to do something for that excess condition, not the deficient condition. Okay, so kidney yang deficiency is treating the deficiency. So we can also think in terms of the opening and closing of the sphincter. The closing part is done by yang and opening is controlled by yin. So it is not able to open. It means that the yin is deficient. So probably we can look into the yin part to see if there is some deficiency in the yin, and whenever there is deficiency in, it creates a heat, that is empty heat. All of this is our advanced topic. Because there is time, I am discussing this. So we will probably have to look into the yin deficiency creating empty heat. That part may work whenever there is urine stoppage. Because the patient is also very old, there is very high chance
Absorbed. Can you please give some information on which vitamins are particularly absorbed only in the LI? That's the only way it goes to the body.
is, as for this, you see, it says sodium, chloride, potassium, and vitamin K. This is what it says in this figure in large intestine. But also, I think vitamin B12 gets absorbed. I should take the help of some of the doctors. So Sheila Kamath, madam, if you could help me to say which particular vitamins gets absorbed in LI. Probably she is not there. Revati, madam, or any other doctors. See, majority of them are absorbed in SI. All the vitamins A, D, E, K, vitamin B6, vitamin C, all of that is getting absorbed in SI. But what this figure says is only vitamin K is getting absorbed in large intestine.
If I may,
Yes.
okay. Actually, the gut bacteria help in formation of some vitamins.
Yes.
They use up some of these material from the waste products, and they in turn give us some of the vitamins. So it's a very synergistic relationship where the body is also benefited and the bacteria are also surviving. And when some reason there's a dysentery and loose motions, and there's a disturbance in the gut flora, B complex is also added to your list of medications normally in the other system.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they form the vitamins.
Yes. So, like, to be in like what you told, that bacteria also are processing the waste to give us some vitamins and other things. So, which is true. I'm trying to think of what is exact vitamin B12. I know is the one which is produced by the bacteria in large intestine. So apart from that, specifics, I'm not sure. Like, but the chart says vitamin K here. Does it answer your question, ma'am?
Yes, thank you. That that makes a lot of sense, because I have seen correlation with colon when people have issues with biotin and vitamin B12, and I was wondering which vitamins are really related to which part, and that makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much.
If I may, the gut bacteria have 5 main functions. One is it does fermentation of the undigested food. It produces vitamin K. And then it improves immunity. It influences your moods. It stimulates the release of hormones involved in storage of fat.
Okay, perfect.
So my project is on that, so I'm having the ready matter.
Okay, great.
Sorry, thank you.
You got more detailed.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
So
In 1 minute,
yes.
can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, actually, when we were going through that recorded thing of aspills, diarrhea is related to contraction, they say. How it is, diarrhea is going down only, no? Then contraction is moving upwards. That is opposite side.
No.
Then how it is treated as, I don't understand.
Contraction is any flow which is opposite to the normal flow.
Yeah.
The food which is supposed to come from top to bottom, if it goes backwards, it is contraction. In place of large intestine, the food is supposed to move slowly and stop. What is the opposite of that? Instead of moving slowly, it is moving very fast. So that is why we say it is contraction.
But it is not in the opposite direction, isn't
It
it?
doesn't mean that the food has to go back to small intestine and from small intestine to stomach and then back into the mouth. No, it doesn't have to be like that.
Okay.
See, the normal flow
Okay.
is outwards in a slow movement, but it is moving very fast. That is also contravection as per TCM.
Okay, sir. Thank you. That I don't know. Okay, thanks.
Sir, is it not we in TCM, don't we relate loose motion to spleen?
No.
Rather, LI, we relate it to spleen, right? So spleen's direction movement is upward.
Okay, in that way also, I am trying to correlate. See, the loose motion is not
According to
always, I cannot always correlate loose motion to spleen. Spleen is definitely one of the reason. So in that way, see, it makes sense. What you tell also makes sense. Spleen has an impact on the loose motion, and the spleen's direction is upwards and the stool is moving downward. But the stool is always moving downwards, isn't it?
That is there. That is there.
Yeah.
But as you said, the texture of the stool changes.
Yes.
So that is also, as you said, it is a contravention because the texture of the stool changes, which has to be hard. It becomes loose. So the texture of the stool changes. So we can relate it that way also, right?
Yeah. Sure. Not like it is. Contravention is something which it is doing the opposite of what it is supposed to do. So here large intestine is not doing its work, but doing the opposite of it. Like instead of sending things slowly, it is just sending it out very fast. Okay. There may be other ways of interpreting it also. Okay. Revati ma'am, you got your answer?
Sir, thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. If there is no further questions, so we will go to the next chapter, which is yes.
Krishnamurti,
Yes, ma'am.
if constipation is a excess condition, is diarrhea a deficient condition?
Should be, because there is nothing to eat. There is no food in the pipe. It is just all moving out. So it becomes difficult.
Yes, diarrhea is deficient and spleen is responsible for that. I think.
Yeah, according to TCM, we relate spleen to diarrhea, and when we treat diarrhea, we use tone, right? We don't say
yes, spleen key.
Yeah.
I am not getting into. It is not the only reason. It is one of the reason. See, when like if the reverse of that, like say when there is constipation, there is no one cause for it. There can be multiple cause.
But sir, according to what I've learned, Dr. Klesh was telling us that when it's constipation, treat liver key stagnation. When it's diarrhea, treat spleen key deficiency. I don't know, could be something more also, but these two are mainly the reasons for.
Yes, could be. So I'll have to take a look at when we see things in a holistic way. I feel that there is because I have heard many very senior people telling constipation is one of the most difficult diseases to treat, because there are so many causes for it. Okay. Unless when we are thorough with it.
Yes, true. Absolutely.
So because it cannot be so simplified way of seeing things. Okay, that is why I'm not giving a very ready-made kind of formula for those things. Okay.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, in Archana ma'am's class, there were many instances when she had mentioned sometimes when there is an alternating between constipation and diarrhea, we treat the spleen. And then there is a possibility there is constipation because of excess wind. And we also, in IBS, many times mind is treated and not exactly just one organ. So there are, it makes sense that there are multiple reasons for.
Yes, so it is a constipation is a symptom. It is not a disease by itself. So we will have to understand why that symptom is coming.
But the wind element is liver, right? So there is a connection also.
Yeah, yes. I'm not denying it. I'm only saying that it is not entirely true in the sense it is not the only reason for constipation. There can be other reasons also. Okay, so if we get into that, it is a chapter by itself, constipation. So we'll not get into that. Okay, so any other questions before we move to urinary bladder?
I think you can move on.
Okay, so we will go to the urinary bladder part. Okay, so what is urinary bladder? It stores and excretes urine, and it is not only doing that. The urinary bladder also converts the turbid fluid into urine. So like it is very difficult to digest for those who only know allopathy. So the TCM says, see, generally what we know is kidney creates urine and it gets stored in the urinary bladder and it gets released, right? This is what we know. But TCM says, in the last class when we were discussing about small intestine, so we also said that small intestine sends the fluids, okay, the rejected fluids into the urinary bladder, and the urinary bladder converts. So here we say that whatever waste which is coming from the small intestine, that turbid fluid gets converted into urine in urinary bladder. Okay, so small intestine and urinary bladder work together to move the fluids in lower warmer. This is one of the other work that the urinary bladder does. And the last one is it distributes the kidney essence into the entire body using the urinary bladder meridian, which flows like it is a very long meridian flowing in the path of spinal cord next on both the sides. So using that pathway, it sends the essence into the body with the help of nerves. This statement is my statement. Okay, it is so take it with a pinch of salt. Okay, so there is no documentation for this last statement about the kidney essence. Okay, so there is kidney, and from kidney there is tube which is called ureter on both the sides, and it comes and joins this bladder, which is a muscular pouch, and from the urinary bladder there is urethra through which the urine comes out. Okay, so a pictorial representation. The urine is formed and drop by drop it comes and gets collected in bladder, and whenever the brain sends a signal, so the sphincter gets opened and the urine is passed. Okay, so we'll try to see each of them little detail. So we saw that the urinary bladder creates urine. Okay. See, there are two things which one part I am not clear. See, whenever the TCM talks about the fluid which comes from small intestine, okay, but there is no discussion of the fluid which comes from the kidney. Okay. From kidney also, the kidney filters the blood, and from that waste is collected and sent to the bladder as urine. That is one part. And the second part is the small intestine is sending the turbid fluid. That is what TCM says. Now, between these two, how the conversion of urine happens, I am not very sure, but TCM says for this, whatever is the turbid fluid which comes from the small intestine, it comes into the urinary bladder, and there is warmth given to that urinary bladder from the kidney yang. The kidney has two things, yang and yin, and also has ki. So the yang is the warmth. So it gives that heat energy to these two organs, the small intestine and the urinary bladder. Based on that warmth, the water which comes here gets converted into urine. That is what is the statement given by TCM. So UB takes warmth and ki from kidney yang to convert the turbid fluids which is received from SI into urine. So when there is ki deficiency in urinary bladder, the urine will be excess and transparent. In general, the urine should be light yellow in color. Okay. So, but if it is transparent like water, clear, then it shows that the urinary bladder is not having enough ki. And that ki is, it is coming from where? It is coming from kidney yang. So there is not enough warmth to convert fluid into urine. So the turbidity is not excreted. Okay. So turbidity is, how do I say? Say you imagine there is a muddy water. Okay, there is water and there is some kind of mud mixed in the water. Now, when it is to be excreted, the muddy water is supposed to come out. But if the muddy water is not coming, only clean water is coming, it means that the mud is not coming out. Right? So the same thing is over here. So that turbid fluid is supposed to be water plus some other unwanted substance in it. So the turbid fluid should come out, but if there is not enough warmth provided by kidney yang, instead of the turbid water coming out, only the clean water will come out. The turbidity will stay back. It is very important to know this when we go into the details of somebody, Manju Gupta. Could you please mute yourself? Okay, so the turbidity, if it has to be removed, sorry, if that clear urine has to go and the turbidity, and I say whatever is the unwanted material, if that also has to come through the urine, then there should be warmth and ki. Okay, so if that is not there, only water will come out. So I was discussing this concept in the undigested food, undigested water, and undigested air. In that class, see, whatever I eat, if the same thing comes out, okay, undigested food, then there is not enough energy to digest that food. And whatever water I drink, it comes like water itself instead of like urine. It means to say that there is no energy, not enough energy to convert that water into urine. It is my understanding. Okay, once again, like and if we just breathe out the oxygen, means the oxygen is not getting absorbed. It means that the oxygen is not getting digested in the body. Agarwal sir also says these three things very frequently. So I'm just trying to correlate that. So I hope this part is clear. It is very important because even in different protocols that you see, kidney yang deficiency, etc., you will see that one of the symptom is clear urine. Okay, so based on urine, if we are trying to diagnose, it is very important to know this part. So the kidney yang See, the urine is not having turbidity, means it is clear urine. So we increase the warmth. That warmth will convert the turbid fluid into proper urine. Okay. Now the second thing is, say this small intestine is connected with the heart also. It is a paired organ. In terms of paired organ, the small intestine is connected with the heart. But in terms of organ clock, after small intestine, urinary bladder comes. So if there is a problem in heart, it impacts its paired organ. And because the paired organ is impacted, it impacts its other organ, which is the urinary bladder. So, and there will be problems in urine. If there is such kind of linking, if you only treat urinary bladder, we won't see result. So at that point of time, we will have to treat the root cause, which is the heart. Okay. So this is the link, heart to small intestine and small intestine to UB. So that is what it says here. Heart is linked to SI and the SI is linked to UB. In some heart disease cases, SI also gets affected and in turn UB is also affected. In those cases, instead of treating only UB, heart also needs to be treated. Okay, like when we get into diagnosis part, you will get to see this link once again. Okay, when there is excess heat in heart, how it gets transmitted into the urine. So it is based on this connection. Okay, so this is for the urinary bladder. So any questions on this part?
Sir, can you please repeat the three things you mentioned that Agarwal sir was saying about oxygen correlation with UB?
See, there are three main things that we intake into the body: food, water, and gas. Right? Solid, liquid, and gaseous material. Solid is the food that we eat. Liquid is the liquids along with water what we take, and the gases are the oxygen, nitrogen, etc. what we breathe in. So all the three things has to get digested in the body. If it is not getting digested, it will be sent out from the body the way that it came in. Right? So if it is, there is a pipe, whatever you put on the top of the pipe, if the same thing comes in the bottom of the pipe, it says the material which was put on the top is not getting processed properly. Right? So like if you have seen the flour mill where we get the wheat flour, etc., the grain is put on the top, the wheat grain is put on the top, the wheat flour is supposed to come out at the other end of the pipe or the machine. So the same thing is over here. If I put the food and in the stool, the food particles is visible, it is not properly mashed up and converted into a proper stool. Okay, so bits and pieces of the food that was eaten is still visible in the stool. It means that the food is not digested and the solid part is not getting digested. And I breathe in the oxygen. I am supposed to exhale the carbon dioxide, but I exhale oxygen itself. It means that the air went in, but in the capillaries, it was supposed to interchange. The oxygen and carbon dioxide was supposed to interchange, but for some reason, that interchange is not happening. So the oxygen itself is coming out. It means that the gaseous material is not getting digested in the body. And the water is not getting digested. It means it is my own interpretation. Okay, don't quote Agarwal sir on this. Okay, if I drink water and the same watery stuff comes out, in the urine instead of a proper urine, then I consider it to be water not getting digested in the body. Okay, because we were expecting urine, but water itself is coming out. So I was giving you an example of why that is happening over here. For the water to get digested, there is enough fire is needed in the body, or the warmth. And the same applies for the food also. If the food is supposed to get digested, then there should be enough heat in the body. In Ayurveda, we say Jataragni. In another word, the acid in the stomach. Okay, there should be enough fire in the body. Only then the food will get digested. Okay, if for the water to get digested also, there should be enough warmth. Here is the warmth coming from kidney yang. Kidney yang is the mother of all yang. Okay, so if that kidney yang is not sufficient, then the water itself, the urine will be in watery consistency, clear water, clear urine, okay, to be precise. So I'm not getting the whatever is the whatever is the waste thing which is supposed to come out, that is not coming out. Okay, so that is how
concentration of urine.
Pardon?
Concentration
of urine is low.
Gets concentrated with heat. Yeah, the concentration of urine is
very low. So this is how I see the three digestion of food, water, and gases. Does it clear your question?
Yes, to most extent. But in BHB, we study kidney is the one that filters, right?
Yes, there is.
Let's not get mixed up with BHB.
So
controversy. No, you see, if you try to look at it, the concepts are so archaic. I mean, they're so different. This is actually material science. Medicine and allopathy is totally a BHB, whatever it is absolutely vindicated science. This is a little more esoteric. We discussed this in the beginning itself. It was done with some intuitive probably powers or whatever, I mean, ideas they had. I have no idea about how they went about it. But like you said, it is actually speaking, if you see the food that comes into the body, the entire thing is absorbed, taken to the liver. It is in the liver, and finally it goes to the heart, it circulates all over. And once it has collected all the waste products, it comes back to the liver, and liver converts the end product of protein into urea. Amino acids, after they've all been utilized, the breakdown products come back. It comes back again to the liver, where the liver converts it into urea and then sends it to the bladder. Along, of course, naturally it needs a carrying medium, that is urine. And over here, from what Krishnamurti says and what I'm trying to intuit also, or rather find connections, I won't say it's intuition, but connections, is, the urine as they saw it, had to, if it was clear, it was not concentrated enough. In other words, whether it was the bladder or it was the kidney, they didn't matter. If the concentration power is not there, then it is a loss of function of excretion. That's how I look at it. So if it shows a concentration, but these things are all, if you look at it, depends upon so many factors, external factors. But over here, it seems to be as though it is only organ related. This is not something that, I have a major issue about trying to understand. So I'm just thinking that that's the way they looked at it. So if they perceive that urine has to be concentrated to this extent, it must be straw colored, it must be yellow. If it is not yellow, and if it is light, it is sick. That's how I think. Or rather, it is not done its normal function. Okay?
So, ma'am, in that case, sometimes we have protein urea, right? There is protein in the urine, right?
Yes, protein urea is again a loss of kidney function.
Shut down.
Oh, protein in the urine is an abnormality. Normally, you will hardly see traces or nil actually. Protein from the filtration is taking place in the kidney, right? So the ultrafiltrate which comes out, the protein is not supposed to come out. If it comes out, it means that the nephron is diseased. So this, it means that it's very categorically clear. Over here, they do not, I don't think we have anything to do with protein indicated. Protein you cannot perceive, it's the color. He was talking about turbidity. Turbidity can happen when you have bacteria, you have a little bit of blood, when you have higher protein, so many things can happen. So I'm not understanding that word turbidity in relation to what you're saying, Krishnamurti. Except for that, I think they mean this concentration power of the
even I feel it is whatever is the particles which is supposed to be there.
Yes,
that is not there.
Not so much particles. It has to have a certain amount of turbidity or what. If you see, it's not supposed to have bacteria. It's not supposed to have RBC. It's not supposed to have anything. It's supposed to be clear. But I think it's only the concentration.
Yes.
It's the concentration that they perceived has to be a particular normal color. And they thought if it was that color.
Thank you. Because I stood in Starbucks for 1 hour.
But in proteinuria, actually, we can see the color is kind of turbid, no?
Yes. If it is very, it is quite high. Traces of thing you will not be able to make out. Supposing you have bacteria, that's also a kind of proteinaceous substances. So they also will give you a turbid urine. If you've got smoky urine, RBC is a little reddish color also, you will have change of color. But normally we expect the urine to be clear, not turbid. Turbidity is not something that one likes in urine. But yes, color, concentration, all those things I can understand. Anyway,
thank you for the clarification.
I don't know clarification, but as a pathologist, I get so psyched out. I'm trying to find the connections. Believe me, I'm terribly confused. And when you pose these questions, I don't know what to say. So I just keep quiet. I'm sorry if I misled anyone.
So it is good to be confused to some extent, so that the brain is constantly trying to figure out why this is like, how did they make the connections. So whatever is there in the book, this is what I could figure out based on what is there in the book. Like probably the more we use these treatments, etc., then we may understand more depth.
Yeah. Right. Yes, true. We must learn more and more, and then it'll all probably fall in place at a later point. Instead of breaking our heads over small small things, let's move on and take it as a dogma. They said this, so let's say okay, we'll accept it. If we don't, then we can't move forward. So let's move on, and then probably
in mathematics,
yes.
Like those who are students of mathematics, like if we are trying to come up with the formulas to say A is equal to B, first we assume, let's say A is equal to B. There is an assumption made, then the whole calculations is done, and then finally it is proved, therefore A is equal to B.
QED.
So
QED.
What
has been assumed has been proved.
Yes.
Okay, fine. I buy
before
that.
we prove it, let us assume what the
reasonable.
TCM guys are telling is right, and then the more we work on it, we will get the proof.
Yes.
One common observation.
Yes, ma'am.
One common observation is whenever anybody has a heart attack or any heart-related problem, we normally find them in the washroom or something like that. So they have that urge to urinate or to pass motion. They are generally in the washrooms. Yes. So many cases. There has to be this connection. So probably it's in the energy level.
It's not because so much of these connections, you see, there is a sort of letting loose of the sphincters. Usually during have loss autonomic control, it happens. So it's biologically explained that way. But in the TCM, maybe like you said, that's probably a connection. Yeah, it seems fair enough to assume that it's because urinary bladder has an effect upon, or the heart has an effect upon the urinary bladder and vice versa. So whether it's through the gut axis or whether it's through the kidney axis or directly, no idea. But definitely there is an effect. So let's begin by presuming, okay, they're right. Okay. Yes. So that's how I look at it. Otherwise, I think I'll quit within 2 days' time. It's very hard for me.
It has worked for lakhs of people, so there should be some.
Yes. See, there is a situation where you know, what they call willing suspension of disbelief. I don't want to disbelieve it or something that goes against normal logical thinking. There must have been some logic that they used, or they understood. So let's try and find that instead of starting like here, like Krishnamurti said, let's think they're right. Let's start with that. So let's assume, and instead of trying to find too many connections and confusing ourselves, let's accept the dogma. That's what I.
And Shobha madam has unmuted. Ma'am, you had a question? Shobha Desai, doctor.
Hi, Krishnamurti.
Yes,
Just I have read something about the urine retention in elderly in TCM can happen also due to the lung chi deficiency.
Lungs ki deficiency? Yes,
Yeah.
it can happen. It can
because
happen.
Because via the kidneys, like lungs are also associated with the bladder via the kidneys.
See, what I had when we were discussing about lungs, I had told lungs is the one which generates the pressure.
Yeah.
So even to defecate or to urinate, pressure is needed. So lungs would be involved.
Yeah, lung chi descends to the kidneys to promote the transformation of fluids and excretion of urine.
Yes.
And that is why this LU7 is used to stimulate the descending of fluids to kidney, urinary bladder for the elderly people. For the urine retention. So that is a good point. I heard like that.
Yes, yes. Even K1 is used for urine retention. If anybody is not able to pass urine, K1 is also used.
Okay.
Okay, so we have less than a minute. So anybody who still wants to join the Books to Brain series, they are most welcome to join. The fee is 2,000 rupees because we have increased the timings from 1 hour a week to 2 hours. So starting from June 15th, we will have 2 classes, Thursday 6:30 to 7:30 and Tuesday 6:30 to 7:30. So if you want to join, please contact me on my number. 91 is the country code. 96323-17950 is my number. And you can also subscribe to my YouTube channel, Krishnamurti Acupressure, for interesting contents to be seen over there. Okay, so thank you all.
Yes, Krishnamurti, an apology for not having paid the additional. I completely forgot about that. And this is a reminder to everyone here. I know, I have time, but it can be done by the flick of my phone. I can always pay. Can I pay